national money markets, national financial markets, and we will see how that determines the interest rate and how monetary policy works in a very simple textbook version. So let me put that up here: the money market, and one, the determination of the interest rate, and second, monetary policy, which of course will be geared towards changing the interest rate. So let me clear the page here and begin with a couple of assumptions. First, we have two assets, namely money and bonds. Money is assumed to be to not pay a return. So holding cash gives you no return except for the security that it provides in being available for making transactions. The bonds, on the other hand, pay a rate of return, but are not risk-free. So these are risky assets versus the risk-free asset, or liquid assets versus relatively illiquid assets. So we have these two assets, and we have two agents, or two types of agents. That's one, the central bank, and two, the private sector financial market participants. And these two interact. So the central bank, as you'll see, determines the money supply, which is a somewhat outdated assumption. In reality, the central bank rather targets the interest rate, but we can go with this textbook version since it is a good first approximation. And the private sector participants determine money demand. And obviously, as in any market here, when supply is equal to demand, then we have an equilibrium, and this equilibrium will give us the interest rate. So the interest rate is the variable that clears money supply and money demand. The interest rate is the variable that brings the financial market into equilibrium. Let's go to a new page and look at money supply and money demand in a little more detail. So first of all, M over P is the real money balances, indexed here with an S. That's money supply. Money supply is exogenous, set by the central bank. And second, money demand is the M over P D. And now the question is, what is money demand? Money demand is a function of income and the interest rate. So principally, these two arguments determine what the real money demand is, with a positive sign on income and a negative sign on the interest rate. So that simply, the higher the real income, the higher are the cash needs in order to conduct transactions. And on the other hand, the higher the interest rates, the higher is the demand for bonds. So that the lower will be the demand for real money. So essentially, if you can make a higher profit with the risky asset, you will shift your wealth towards that and demand less money. On the other hand, the lower the interest rate, the more difficult, the more unreasonable it seems to give up the comfort of having cash in hand for the little bit of return that you get for holding the risky asset. We can put that into a diagram with the interest rate on this axis, real money balances on this axis, and then we have the two curves. Well, money supply is exogenous, so here as a straight line independent of the interest rate, and you see here y is exogenous to this diagram, but the interest rate is not. So we can draw this line as a downward sloping function of the interest rate. Here's the money demand function. And we get at the intersection here, let's highlight it as well, at the intersection we get R star, which would be the equilibrium interest rate that clears the financial markets. Now let's consider a couple of changes in exogenous variables, and that will get us as well to monetary policy. I will just redraw the diagram